Hello, hello. Welcome to the day that we start painting our illustration. All right, guys, so I've been thinking about how I want to film this painting, and I think there's a reason why there's not a lot of real-time watercolor paintings out there, or any paintings for that matter, and it's just because it takes such a long time to paint. But I do want to do this real time, so I'm going to divide it up into 3 different videos. The first one hopefully is going to be my first layer of watercolor, which I like to think of all my watercolors in 3 layers if I can. So the first layer of watercolor, it's by the end it's going to look kind of all, I don't know, blocked in, I guess would be a word, but everything will be close to the same value, and there won't be a lot of like dimension to the piece. And then in the next video, which I'll post next week, we'll start dividing that out, and then in the 3rd video I'm going to show you how to finish up. So that's the plan. So before we get started, there's a few things I just want to fill you in on. One of them is until the end of September 2018, I'm still doing a drive for my Patreon page where all of my patrons can get this button. I think it's super cute and I'm excited to give them away. So if you want one, become a patron by the end of September 2018. It doesn't matter what level you're a patron at. So, yep. The next thing I want to tell you before I start actually painting is in between the color study video and this one, I did do some studies, which I didn't film because you're going to get the idea as I go, all the stuff that I did on this. So basically I just took a piece of my drawing, printed it on this piece of watercolor paper. This is a really cheap watercolor paper, like it's just a really cheap one that came in a book. Someone gave it to me. I don't usually use these for my big paintings because the paper just doesn't work as well. And then I just started practicing. So this was my first one and this was my second one. I think you can tell that this one is looking a lot better. So hopefully my 3rd one will look even better. So I'm just gonna have this up in front of me as I'm painting, and I also have on my computer, which is right here in front of my face, my color study / value study that I did in Procreate. So I'll have that there. So the next thing is I'm going to go ahead and turn on another camera that's going to film what I'm mixing, what puddles and stuff I'm making over here on my palette where you can't actually see. Like below this video, if you have any questions about my setup or what I'm doing or anything like that, ask them in the comments and I'll try to very soon, hopefully in the future, make another video to answer your question. Okay. So let me just turn on my camera, the other camera, and we'll get started. One thing that I learned when I was doing these studies is that, so the first one I tried doing kind of a light blue backwash and then painting on top of it. And then this one I just started right in with the base and tried to work really like wet and quick to get my like main washes in first and kind of all at once. So that seemed to work a lot better. So we're going to try that again. Hopefully it'll work again and I remember what I'm doing. One of the main things obviously that you want to do when you're doing watercolor is save your whites. And I've been debating about if I want to use masking fluid, but I think I'm not going to on this painting. So yeah, I'm just gonna go right in without using any. I do like to keep masking fluid to a minimum when I can. Okay, I'm gonna start on the background because I know that it's gonna be hard to mess up the background. There's hardly anything there, just a little bit of hay. And I do want it to be on the grayish green side. So we'll start by mixing up with this big, it's a 3/4 inch brush. It's a filbert, I think. and start mixing. First I need to make sure my paints are nice and wet, and I think that there's a few colors that I need to add. Green is one of them. Lots of watercolorists like to mix their greens, which is good. I like to mix mine and have a few in reserve. This one, the Daniel Smith Undersea Green, I like a lot, and I think it's going to be useful for this one because it's so much green. Okay, we have blue, we have yellow. I think we'll go from there. Okay, I'm going to start by mixing a gigantic puddle, and I'm just going to use all the stuff that's on my palette. So basically a gigantic puddle of grayish green paint. I have a big puddle mix. You can see it's pretty thick, like there's not a lot of water in it. I think I'll start over here. So the other thing that I'm going to need though is some light blues. I'm going to grab the lid of this palette. So just get some blue puddle ready. I was just wondering, like, should I edit this out or not? I guess you can see me mixing paint, but there's just a lot of thinking going on in my mind. I'm looking at my color study and paying really close attention to what I want to save. We're gonna go right up here. I like this color, but I have this bit on here. And I'm going to add a little more blue. Keep going. See how I have that big bead? As long as that's there, I can keep painting. If it dries, then it's dry. We're stuck with it, whatever it looks like. I'm being careful around his hat because I know that I want that blue light right there. Add a little bit of that green. So when I'm doing my washes, I try not to do just the same all the way down. Keep it a little bit changed up so I mix into my puddle. Okay, I'm gonna leave that for a second. So if we get a bit of a hard line right there, it should be okay, actually. Guess I shouldn't whisper. Right in here, I'm gonna add a little bit of, okay, that might cause issues, but whatever. Okay, so I'm going over here. This is still wet, so I can move it. this to go right there. I'm gonna lift it up just a bit. It's gonna be dark right there, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal. Okay, so now I have these haystacks, and this isn't dry yet, which is good. I'm gonna take that blue that I mixed and go right into that with, it's gonna make weird bloomy things. I'm gonna be okay with it. Brighter, so I'm just going to take this right out of the tube. So I don't need to save this part super white because it's still going to be in the background. It's definitely we want it to recede. We don't want a huge highlight on our haystack showing up. So if you notice, I'm working in sections. I'm thinking of areas that I can do at once without it drying too crazy. So I'm trying to keep this part a little more green or yellow than that background part, just because straw is a little more yellow than brick, right? But it's still all in the background. So it's just going to be a subtle change. So you have to work fast enough that things don't dry on you and have enough puddles. That's why we made such a giant puddle over there, to make sure we have a nice wet. Looking at my color study, I want this area to kind of blend together. So I'm gonna go right in to Rumpelstiltskin's clothes. But I'm not using as dark of paint. I'm just gonna go right in with a little bit more water. Okay, right about here is where the light is coming in. So I'm going to make sure that I'm not doing any of that shadow color there. Section's good. So now over here, same thing. I'm going to take my blue. And paint right over the bench because I don't feel like it's that important. And same with in here, like I feel like it would be fine if he kind of disappears into the background right here, but I also want the light to shine there, so I haven't actually decided what to do. I think I'll do something similar to what I did right there, just a little bit. Dried off my brush. I'm gonna make this edge soft. Just a little bit of water. My water is not super clean, but that's okay. This doesn't need to be the widest area. Basically now I know that all of these areas are going to be that dark green. But I also kind of want any parts of the spinning wheel that aren't highlighted to have that as a first layer, because I want the spinning wheel to blend into the background except for key pieces. So I need to think about it for a minute. Let's not go there yet. Let's work right down in here because I think I know what to do. So I want, again, like his, this area to sort of disappear, fade into the background. So I'm going to start with a little bit of water. Still just getting wet around some of the areas that I might want to be more green. I keep forgetting I need to mix. Both of those sort of fade. That's what we wanted. So that worked. Woohoo! So I guess since I'm just mixing, this is ultramarine blue. And this is Payne's gray. And this is, I think it's cadmium yellow. So I guess those are the main colors I've been using for the background, and then undersea green. So I want to just go right in and go over this, but I know I need to save this side because it's hitting, the light is hitting it, and a little bit right here because the moonlight is hitting that. It's the spindles that I'm not sure about. So then I'm wondering, is it better to do it separate? But I don't want all these hard edges. Okay. So, thinking about that, I'm sure about this section right here. So I'm gonna do that. Save a little area for the highlight up there and just paint right over this. So you'll see in the second layer how we separate out the spinning wheel and the background. And then again, there's going to be a highlight along the top of the table, spinning wheel table. If I remember right, that's what it's called. So I don't want to do that part. But help me figure out some other areas. So I know that right here, I want to save that little piece, which you can't even, that little piece doesn't really describe very good. There's a lot around here that I want to save and some that I'm not going to. So I'm going to do this same thing on this spindle that I did down below. Kind of let this bleed in, and so the edge can get a little lost. But not on the front one, because the front one we want to have a little more standing out because it's in the front. So hopefully that'll give it some depth later on. Okay. So I did switch my brush. I don't know when that happened. This is a 12 round. Probably started when I did that smaller area. hurry now before that dries too much. And I can't pull it. But I already have this dark color in my brush, so I want to keep going with it. Bit of color out because I made this way darker than I made that. Hopefully that's good. Well, basically just lifting out a bit with my brush. Hopefully that wasn't a mistake. It could have been. Might end up looking weird. Okay. So I took a little break, looked at Facebook for a minute, and so it's probably been about 10 minutes. And I've come up with a plan, and the plan is this. I'm going to work on the face area, maybe the face and the hat, face and the collar, I'm not really sure. And show you that in real time. And then once that's done, I'm gonna time lapse the rest of the first layer because otherwise this video is going to be, it's already way too long, but I know that you're going to want to see me paint the face. So that's the plan. Hopefully that sounds good to you. Okay. So I have been staring at this, thinking about what I want to do, trying to remember what I did on my little study. So we're going to start by wetting our paint because it is hot. I think the high is 97 today, and I do have the cooler on, but it's not. Own area, and I just I'm just going to get a couple puddles that I feel pretty good about being skin tone. So this is alizarin crimson, cadmium red light, I think. I have this pinkish color. I'll just stick right here, sort of mix together. And this one is, oh, I don't remember. I remember when I need to find the tube in my box. Just kind of have these here. And then I still want this green because I'm going to want to bring that in. Oh yeah, we used up all the blue. I need to put some ultramarine in. I just have some stuff for me to pick from. So let's see. That's what the gold color is. Okay, I'm going to start on the shadow side of the face. And I'm going to start with this blue. Stick some of that blue in again. Note to self, might be better to do it afterward or save the light and do it later. Okay, I'm gonna go to a little bit more pinkish as I move down. And this whole side of the face is really dark, so I'm not too worried about color. So, except I am gonna save, so I learned my lesson. I'm gonna save a little bit of light right here where I want the moonlight to be hitting. And then I'm not blending in the nose because again I want the moonlight to be hitting right there. And same with the mustache. The mustache is really dark though, so I'm just gonna kind of keep going. Okay, now moving over here. There's going to be more lights to save, but so basically I'm using this greenish color to help make my shadows. So it's going to hopefully, rather than being muddy, be a little bit more blended with the background. So I have basically a shadow from the hat that's coming along right here. So I'll start with that, see what happens. Oh. I want it to get thinner as it goes over. Still there. Okay, now I have that big whole thing. I need to hurry. 'Cause I don't want a hard edge really. So right here. So we have that golden light shining on his face. So as I come around to the lighter areas, I'm gonna just move it to gold. I'm gonna save some lights too. So I'm basically trying to think about this whole section at once. I have the light shining right here. And then right under his eye, it's darker. a bit of a rosy cheek. Now this area is going to be the lightest, so I'm just going to get water, pull some of it around. Put down his nose. There's a shadow there, except for where the blue highlight is. Oh, I don't know if that was the best color. Put a little bit of red in it. And then again, yellow as it gets toward the light that's coming over here. But I'm going to save a highlight along his nose. I don't know if you guys can hear the airplane. The airplane just flew by. Sorry if that messed up the sound. We live right by an airport. There's not really much you can do. I could close the window, but it's way too hot. Okay, I just want his nose to look a little more red. Maybe not quite that much though. See, oh, that dried. Dang it. This is probably where it would have been good to get some clean water. I don't want that weird line. A lot of people, not a lot, but I have seen quite a few watercolor artists that have like more than one water, and then they somehow keep one of them clean. Somehow meaning they rinse their brush out in one and then they dip from the other. I can never do it. Always ends up, they just both end up being dirty, so I gave up that. Okay, so down here on the chin, saving the highlights out again where I want the light from the fire or lantern or whatever to show. And on his beard, I'm leaving this edge and that edge because that's going to be lighter too. Not too bad. For a first layer, let's see, I am gonna put a little bit of a shadow. Okay. Let's call that area good. We'll go ahead and It's ready to go for the second layer, so that's going to be the video. So tune in next week so you can see how we progress with this painting. Don't forget to go sign up to get your Mermaids Are Real button on Patreon, patreon.com/talesfantastic. And if you have any questions about this process, don't hesitate to ask me below the video. Thanks for watching.